and welcome. It's Doug Diamond here for another Diamond Report Live. Yeah, I wanted to show that video. It's one I mentioned on my Facebook page a few days ago when they put that video out on InfoWars. I thought it was very good, very well done. And yes, he is an effing disaster, as we all know. But now, even the blue states are starting to pick up on that. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. And it's not 500 dead kids. It's looking more like maybe 2,000. And I'll get to that here in a few minutes. But yeah, there's at least one. I've heard more than one report saying that there are 2,000 missing kids. So wow, that is where we are. That's where we are. So Doug Diamond here, another Diamond Report Live. It's 10:08 p.m. on Sunday night, August the 27th. Welcome. Glad you guys are here. We have Rumble up and rolling. We got a number of people over there as well, so feel free to chat away on there. I won't be able to show the Rumble chat on my screen, unfortunately. It's just the type of connection I have to use. But know that I am seeing your chat there as well. And if you're on YouTube, your chat will show up on my screen, as well as Facebook. One of the Facebook pages will. So yeah, hello and welcome. Let's get going here. We've got a lot to cover. You can see all the tabs across the top of my screen. Man, there's a bunch of them. I even had to close a few because there were so many. So anyway, let's start with this first one. HalTurnerRadioShow.com is where we are. Florida, 72 hours heads up. This is as of earlier today. Gulf Coast, Big Bend hurricane. So they've got another hurricane they're launching into Florida. Little by little, it's headed that direction. And Hal's putting out the warning signs here. And what he's saying is exactly what I'm seeing over on VentuSky. We'll look at that as well. Currently, it's going to impact Florida probably around a Category 1. It could be less than that. It's hard to say how much steam it's going to pick up in the Gulf. So we don't know. This is what VentuSky is showing at the moment. You can kind of see it rotating here. Idalia is the name of it. And, right there on your lower part of the screen. And then this other one, Franklin, is huge, looks like, and very powerful. However, I was tracking it just to see where it was headed. And they have that one steered kind of, let me zoom out here. They have Franklin steered sort of out here, headed toward the East Coast, but then veering off and going this direction over the course of the next 5 days or so, 4 or 5 days. So we'll see. Hopefully they won't steer it directly into the states, which they are all about climate catastrophes and burning every town down that they can, and hurricane, knocking everything down, and earthquakes and everything else. So, I mean, just to blame climate change at this point. So I don't know. I'm not sure what they'll do. Hopefully this Franklin one will go out to sea as it's forecast to do here, but this Idalia one is the one to watch. That's the one that the Hal Turner site is pointing to, and it's looking like Wednesday morning at this point. So if you're in the panhandle of Florida, just be on the lookout. You may already know about it. So anyway, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. We are in hurricane season, so yeah, we probably are for the next month or so. And the other article I had pulled up on his site, India buys 1 million barrels of oil using India rupees, not U.S. dollars. The hegemony of the U.S. dollar is coming to an end. The BRICS nations, which we're going to talk about here briefly in a little bit, are going to see to it that they put an end to the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. When that happens, you can bet we are going to war. You can bet on it, because they will not stand for that to happen. So anyway, yeah, this article, again, HalTurnerRadioShow.com. And, okay, usually I mention, and early on in the broadcast, I will mention a Patrick Wood Technocracy News article. And I did find out some information about Mr. Wood, and we'll look at that in here in just a second, because I've mentioned him a couple times in the last broadcast because I was concerned that I'd heard some reports that he'd had a stroke. 4 billionaire technocrats are creating an alternate autocratic reality. This is on his site, technocracy.news. And it's talking about the 4 very powerful billionaires, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, and Mark Anderson, are creating a world where nothing is true and all is spectacle. If we are to inquire how we got to a place of radical income inequality, post-truth reality, and the looming potential for a second American Civil War, we need to look no further than these four, the biggest wallets, to paraphrase historian Timothy Snyder, paying for the most blinding lights, in recognition of the influence of the technocracy movement founded in the 1930s by Elon Musk's grandfather, Joshua Haldeman. The technocrats make up a kind of interlocking directorate of Silicon Valley, each investing in or sitting on the boards of others' companies. Their vast digital domain controls your personal information, affects how billions of people live, work, and love, and sows online chaos, inciting mob violence and sparking runs on stocks. These four men have been long regarded as technologically progressive heroes, but they are actually part of a broader anti-democratic authoritarian turn within the tech world, deeply invested in preserving the status quo and keeping their market leadership positions or near monopolies and their multi-billion-dollar fortunes secure from higher taxes. Competition is for suckers, Thiel once posited. Yes, and who was it? One of the old time guys, it might have been Morgan, J.P. Morgan, said that competition is a sin. It was either him or Rockefeller, I forget which one. Anyway, yeah, so that's on technocracy.news. Here's what I found out about Mr. Wood, Patrick Wood. Thank you for your prayers. My return will be soon. This is certainly a difficult year for me physically, with triple bypass heart surgery on April 4th and now with a stroke on August 9th. So thank you to Tetra, I think it was, who mentioned that a couple weeks ago now on Diamond Report in chat, and I was concerned that Mr. Wood was worse than he is. Apparently he's doing okay. Says it's provided much time to think about the evil that is descending on the world, and because of it, what priorities are important. I will certainly continue to expose the evils of technocracy and transhumanism because they represent the clear and present danger of the world. However, they are symptoms of a much bigger problem, that the whole world is running off the rails. Worse, reality itself is crumbling for billions of humans. Imagine the consequences. So anyway, then he talks more about his recovery and says he's progressing at an amazing rate, baffling the doctors and health professionals alike. So that is good news, and I don't know Patrick that well. I've talked to him a couple of times. He's been a guest on Lost Arts Radio, which you guys know I produce and do the engineer production part of that show with Richard Sachs. And so well wishes to Mr. Wood. Hopefully he will be back in the fight here very soon. But that is on, this article is on his Substack, which is just patrickwood.substack.com if you guys want to subscribe or follow along there. All right, so here is the glare. You've all seen it. Georgia, former President Trump arrested by Fulton County Sheriff's Office. Well, we all knew this was coming, and it's not going to be the last time, right? Because we have an election in over a year now, so they still need to come up with a few more charges to hit him with. And I don't think they realize that every time they hit him, his poll numbers go up even further. Or maybe they do know. Maybe they do see that, and they're trying to figure out how to make it go the opposite way. I don't know, but so far they have not figured it out. I think it's pretty hilarious. I'm not even a Trump supporter, but I'm having fun watching the every time Biden and his people have his wacko son. Anytime anything bad comes out about them, then Trump is indicted yet again. It's weird. If you look at the dates, they definitely correspond, usually within a few hours or so. Trump gets indicted again every time a new Biden crime of some sort comes out. It's pretty wild. Anyway, it says Georgia former President Trump turned himself in the Fulton County Sheriff's Office for arrest. He was released on $200,000 bond after he'd been processed. He was instructed not to make any direct or indirect threat against witnesses or co-defendants, and yet he gives us this face. I'm surprised they didn't say that this face was a threat. Too funny. Trump and 18 others were indicted in a 98-page, 41-count indictment handed down by a Fulton County grand jury last week. He wrote that he was being arrested by low-life District Attorney Fani Willis for a perfect phone call and having the audacity to challenge a rigged and stolen election. The evidence is irrefutable. Yes, and Hillary is still challenging the 2016 election. And many other Democrats are definitely challenging elections in which they lost. But it's okay if they do it, I guess. And for you guys that are new, happen to be watching either on Rumble or in other places, just know that you can subscribe to my Substack. The address for that's in the upper right corner over there. It's diamonddisc.substack.com. It's absolutely free. And I will send the links out to all of these articles that I talk about tonight in the email that I send tomorrow evening, probably. So at some point tomorrow. So anyway, let's keep moving here. Newsweek, this is an article I found. You guys know about the plane crash that happened earlier with Prigozhin on it, or at least supposedly on it. We don't know. Here's what it says. Vladimir Putin delivers final insult to Prigozhin. So what do you guys think? Do you think he did it? Think Putin had him killed? I don't know. The verdict is out, although I'll show you an article I came across here in a minute that might help solidify what happened, but I don't know. It's still questionable because we weren't there. The Kremlin has suggested that Putin's busy schedule may prevent the Russian president from attending the funeral of Prigozhin, who's presumed dead after the Wagner Group chief's private jet crashed on Wednesday. Putin's press secretary Peskov said on Friday that it's not possible to say whether Putin will be able to attend Prigozhin's funeral. Okay. We do not know how long the necessary examinations and the necessary actions related to the investigation into the plane crash will be, Peskov said. Therefore, at the moment, when there are no dates for the funeral and so on, it's impossible to talk about this. The only thing I can say is that the president has a fairly busy work schedule now. Well, he's not on vacation like Biden is every other day, so that is interesting. This is dated a couple days ago, and the other sort of companion piece to this is also on Newsweek. It says, following the presumed death of Prigozhin, members of his mercenary group have started leaving their large base in Belarus. Prigozhin was listed as a passenger on a jet that crashed in Russia's Tver region on Wednesday, killing all 10 people aboard. On Thursday, Putin provided something of a confirmation of Prigozhin's death when he spoke about the crash and his time knowing the Wagner founder. So anyway, this is on Newsweek as well, and I found this one. I thought this sort of sums it up. If you want to know what really happened, you can see it was a plane crash by lasers. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. Now here's the other article that I mentioned. Former Wagner chief Prigozhin confirmed dead. DNA reportedly found at the crash site. So the DNA has been found according to the Russians, and it's all over. They found the right guy. So you have the people who ostensibly, did the crashing, investigating the crash, and they say he was on it. Which of course we have no idea if he was on it or not. Did he take the $6 billion that the CIA offered him, and then now he's like on a beach somewhere, and the whole world thinks he's dead and he's going to live it up? You think that's what happened, or do you think he's really dead? I don't know. I'm not sure. I tend to think that he probably really is dead, because I don't think that Putin would allow any sort of rebellion to happen on his watch and put up with it. Although if Putin got a slice of the money, who knows? I mean, it's very possible that it's just an elaborate scam and this guy's still alive somewhere. We just don't know. So anyway, but yeah, they're saying the DNA has been found. Russian authorities announced on Sunday the DNA of Prigozhin was found near the crash site, and says they confirmed that he was among the victims of the plane crash on Wednesday. So they're officially reporting it. Not that really matters. It would be kind of like the American government saying, oh yes, we can confirm that JFK has been killed because we have his DNA, even though we didn't actually pull the trigger when they did. So who knows? So yeah, this is on Gateway Pundit. It's where that article is. And we played the video to start the program, which was from a couple days ago now. But this Maui thing, I don't think it's going to go away. This is a huge story even now, and I think the snowball, the proverbial snowball rolling down the hill, is getting larger and larger as more and more facts come out about this thing. It says, report, those who disobeyed road barricades survived the Maui fire. Those who didn't perished. So if you followed the rules, if you followed and did what the police told you, you're probably dead right now. Baked alive, cooked alive in your car. But if you went against the grain and you deliberately disobeyed, like we've seen video clips of people talking about having done that, then there's a good chance you're alive. The AP reported Wednesday people in Maui who drove around a road barricade blocking the lone paved road from Lahaina as fires raged earlier this month survived, while those who obeyed perished in their cars or fled to the nearby ocean. The road had been reportedly closed due to downed power lines. Yeah, that's why they had the police were staked out there. They were saying, yes, the power lines were down. Supposedly, I mean, which they really were, but they were saying that that's why the roads were blocked. So anyway, yeah, satellite photo taken the night of the fire shows nearly all of Lahaina ablaze. Wow, look at that. That's amazing. I found this one as well, CBS News. Mother recounts desperate effort to save her son killed in Maui fires before his 15th birthday. The ceremony was held at a park to honor the life of Quiero Fuentes. Would have been his 15th birthday. Teen was home alone enjoying the last day of summer vacation when flames tore through his town. Vargas said a man on a motorbike took her to the front line of the fire where a team of first responders assured her that the area had been cleared. She said that she was told that no one was there and to have faith that her son got out. 2 days later, when Vargas made it to her devastated home, so it's taken all this time for her to make it there, she discovered her son's lifeless body hugging his dead dog. Wow. Could you imagine? I can't even imagine what that must be like, what these parents are going through. You know, and then told they couldn't go back to where their property was there. So that's on CBS News. And then on News Wars, conflict of interest, ? Maui police chief who oversaw the emergency response at Vegas mass shooting also serves as the Maui coroner. Did you guys know this? I just found this out a day or two ago that yes, indeed, the dude from the Vegas shooting who was there, and we all know about it, is also serving as the coroner. It sounds like a really bad Hollywood script, doesn't it? Social media users express concerns over potential conflicts of interest and lack of transparency, as many believe officials withholding info about higher death toll, which could potentially include hundreds of children. Commenters on social media are raising eyebrows after learning the police chief in Maui, John Pelletier, who previously worked as incident commander during the Las Vegas massacre, also serves as the island's coroner. Bizarre coincidence came to light last week as Chief Pelletier, I'm not sure how you say his name, in a seemingly offhanded remark mentioned he's also the coroner during a press conference update on the Lahaina, Hawaii wildfires, where the current death toll stands at 115. This is as of like 4 days ago now. The comment was immediately flagged by social media users who expressed concerns over potential conflicts of interest and lack of transparency, as many believe officials might be deliberately withholding information, possibly to conceal a significantly higher death toll, which could potentially include hundreds of children. And then there's some of the tweets here where he mentions that he happens to also be the coroner. Yep, just a coincidence. Go back to sleep, pay no attention. Yeah. FEMA agents booking $1,000 night luxury resorts in Maui amid failed disaster response. Government responders turning Maui wildfire disaster into 5-star beachfront vacation. Isn't that nice? Isn't that exciting that they get to do this? Meanwhile, the families who lost everything get $700, maybe, according to Biden. And these people are spending the night in $1,000 per night minimum hotels. The FEMA agents are shacking up in 5-star luxury beachfront resorts in Maui amid the agency's botched handling of the deadly wildfire disaster. The 1,000 FEMA agents, 1,000 of them, at $1,000 a night minimum, who have been dispatched to manage the government's response to the Maui wildfires, are reportedly staying at luxury resorts that start at $1,000 per night. Yeah, and then it talks about some more details on that. And what do you guys think about this? I'm not really surprised, honestly, but you know, in the footage that I've seen, there's supposed to be 1,000 agents, which I just found out just now reading this article. I don't pre-read these articles. I pull them up here and we go through them live. So there's 1,000 agents roaming around supposedly. Have you guys seen a single agent in any footage that's come out of there at all? I haven't. I think I've seen maybe a police officer or two and perhaps a fireman, but that's about it. No one else. Certainly no FEMA people. So yeah, pretty wild. There are apparently 1,000 of them on vacation and getting quite the royal treatment over there. The truth is finding its way out of Maui thanks to videos like this. So this is on revolver.news. You guys have probably seen this footage, but it's a guy that's saying that we're all trapped. They're blocking off all of the exits. It says Maui, a paradise, is currently engulfed in mystery. A smoky haze covered the island, both literally and metaphorically. Something seems very off about the events. Before, during, and after the fires, our government officials from the highest levels down have acted in a way that's alarming, even for buffoons known for their incompetence like Biden and Maui's mayor. The mayor has really set the bar low by refusing to disclose the current death toll or talk about the missing children, not to mention the array of bumbling fools in Hawaii state government who put people at risk with their negligent and inept handling of the actual fire and evacuation. Biden showed up a week later and made matters worse by insulting and offending everyone repeatedly. These poor people can't catch a break. Yeah, so there's a little bit more there on that article, revolver.news. And then this one, Maui County sues Hawaiian Electric over failure to shut off power lines despite warnings, which we talked about this last week. Maui County is seeking damages and just compensation against Hawaiian Electric, which is owned by, say it with me, BlackRock, of course, and 3 related companies accusing them of negligence, according to the suit. Yeah, I think it was in BlackRock and Vanguard, maybe, the 2 companies that own the electric company, which sets it up perfectly for wiping out the entire town and then building back better, meaning building a 15-minute city or whatever they're planning to do. So that particular article is on NBC News, which I don't normally quote those, but it's interesting to see that some of the mainstream media is actually reporting what's going on. And, I would point out, too, that none of the media is being allowed to really see and do much of anything there. So who knows what's trickling out little by little, which is why we're still talking about this, 3 weeks later, or whatever it's been. August 8th is when it happened. So yeah, we're almost 20 days in at this point, close to 3 weeks. Found this one. I thought it was semi-interesting. That is coming up this week. Rare blue supermoon to rise this week and won't return till 2037. Will we be here to see it? I don't think so. But the one this week, I think we probably will. The coming full moon will be the brightest and largest of 2023. A blue supermoon will rise in the night sky on Wednesday, August the 30th. Live Science reported this week. The expression once in a blue moon has relevance in a real lunar phenomenon. Moreover, as the phrase suggests, they are indeed rare, and the lunar event to take place on Wednesday will not be seen again for some years. I would say not even in this age. The name, though, is somewhat misleading, as the blue moon is not actually blue. The moon will actually appear to have an orange hue. There are, in fact, 2 varieties of blue moons. Live Science explains. The first type, a calendar blue moon, occurs when 2 full moons occur within the same month. As the full moon appears every 29 and a half days, although rare, it necessarily occurs every 2 or 3 years. The second type is a seasonal blue moon, which describes a 13th full moon in a year as opposed to the typical 12. As there was a full moon on the first of the month, the blue moon to appear on Wednesday is of the former variety. The coming blue moon, however, is not just a blue moon, it's a super blue moon. NASA, never a straight answer, describes a supermoon as a perigean full moon, that is, a full moon occurring near or at the time when the moon is at its closest point in its orbit around the Earth. The coming blue supermoon meets the criteria for both types of moon described. So anyway, that is coming up this Wednesday, August the 30th. A rare blue supermoon. But won't be seen again until 2037. I think we'll be several years into the millennial reign of Jesus Christ at that point. All right, next article. It's official. The BRICS supergroup now includes Saudi Arabia, Iran, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the UAE. They will control 80% of the world's oil. I mentioned the BRICS earlier at the start of the show. This is another article about that same situation. The great BRICS shakeup. Will the world ever be the same? Are we on the precipice of the world's greatest power shift? The BRICS expansion is looming large, and the ramifications could be more significant than we ever imagined. The latest developments have many left wondering, are we headed for World War III? This is what I brought up earlier. The hegemony that the United States is currently enjoying, full control over the world's surplus of pretty much everything, is about to come to an end, and that will result in World War III. Mark my words. In a world where geopolitics has more twists and turns than a best-selling thriller, the news that 6 more countries are joining the BRICS alliance promises to be the plot twist no one saw coming. 6 nations, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the UAE, are about to alter the world's balance of power, effective January 1st, 2024. The implications? Earth-shattering, to say the least. So here will be the BRICS nations in 2024. You see all the green, and there's a lot of it. And none of the West, of course, is part of it. So they are getting the rug pulled out from under them, you could say. To truly grasp the weight of this seismic shift, we must first understand the new layout. The map now includes a vast majority of the world's top oil and gas producers. Imagine a conglomerate that will control 80% of the world's oil and gas production. That's not just a group of countries coming together. That's an ironclad, world-dominating alliance. The power that be's worst nightmare. That elusive cabal that many believe holds the world's strings might be sweating. Why? This isn't just about the shift of economic power. It's a potential paradigm change. Picture a world where the once almighty US dollar and the euro are just obsolete pieces of paper. Many have murmured the possibility in hushed tones for years, and it looks like the nightmare might just become a reality. With the US dollar and euro essentially backed by air, a significant trade move against them could be catastrophic. Yes, it will be, and it will result in World War III. So this goes on to talk about Black Swan events and further information there. This is on amgnews.com is where that is. And just a follow-up to that on RT, BRICS nations just want what is theirs, and that spells doom for the Western hegemony. Economic interests will likely help the expanded bloc iron out long-standing feuds within. And you can see the leader of India here and South African president as well. So more info there on RT. And I wanted to mention this. We talked about Vivek a couple of different times, and I've heard that it's Vivek and I've heard that it's Vivek. So I'm not sure which one it actually is, but Mr. Ramaswamy, to you and I. Should we trust him? Lots of coincidences here. Please lay aside your tendency toward confirmation bias for one moment, dear reader, and consider the things this man is saying about Vivek Ramaswamy. Should we trust him? Lots of coincidences here. So let's listen to what this guy has to say. I think it's pretty interesting. And you guys know I played some clips of Vivek a couple weeks ago on the broadcast and was mentioning that I really liked what he was saying. Well, this guy here is bringing up some very important points we need to know about. So we like to present both sides of the story here when needed, and it's certainly needed in this case. So here we go.
Vivek Ramaswamy. Should you trust him? Some of you won't like this, but hear me out. He seems to be everywhere. Clips of him giving it to the man and calling out the establishment all over social media. Skyrockets from unknown to top of the Republican polls. And I understand why. He says what we all want to hear. End the war, secure the border, drain the swamp, unity, freedom, truth. Which outlets are considered untrustworthy propaganda media? MSNBC, Business Insider, AP, Forbes, The New York Times, The New Yorker, Huffington Post, Axios, Politico, just to name a few. The mouthpiece of the establishment. Then why are they all so supportive of Vivek? Doesn't make sense. How is he considered anti-establishment when he's supported by the establishment? If you or I were to say some of the anti-woke things he says, we would be shadow banned. But somehow, he's trending on every single major social media platform. Prior to politics, he was a hedge fund manager. His claim to fame was a pharmaceutical startup company called Roivant. In the 9 years it's been in business, it has never been profitable or delivered a working product. Although Roivant continues to fail their clinical trials, they were able to find investors and raise money, making Vivek an extremely wealthy entrepreneur. Good at convincing people to invest, poor at delivering product and execution. Not a good sign. So what about the money? The media highlights that Vivek has invested over $10 million of his own money to fund his campaign, an honorable feat. Vivek announced his run for presidency in February 2023. How long do you think it takes to make that decision and execute a plan? 6, 8 months? July 2022. The value of Roivant stock is just over $3 per share. On February 21st, 2023, Vivek announces his run for presidency, and on February 22, he sells 4 million shares for approximately $32 million at nearly $8 per share. Well over $15 million in profit in 6 months prior to him announcing presidency. Good for him, right? Make that money. Company is losing over $1 billion per year, but he got paid. Smart guy. But anytime things are just so coincidental, I'm forced to keep digging. Why did the stock price of an unprofitable, failing company rise over 100%? How does it go from an all-time low to nearly its all-time high? Institutional money. You remember when Vivek said the financial investment giants like BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard represent arguably the most powerful cartel in human history? Well, guess who's on the list of institutional investment giants that started giving his company money 1 year ago? You want to guess? BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. All three have added to their positions in the last quarter, and Roivant, which Vivek still owns 7% share in, is now up over 300% in the last year, making it worth close to $1 billion. During the Republican primary debate, Vivek vowed to end the teachers' union. Guess who is also on this list of investors? California State Teachers Retirement System. Look, his intentions may be pure, and this is all a coincidence. Maybe there's a great explanation. However, I am not a financial analyst nor investigative reporter, but I was able to find all this out in a couple hours of sifting through publicly available data. Why is his connection to George Soros via scholarship and his involvement in the Ohio COVID-19 response team scrubbed from Wikipedia? In 2021, he was named a young global leader by the World Economic Forum. 2 years later, after using that title to raise investments for his company, he sued the WEF to remove his name from the list. 3 months after that, he was able to settle with Klaus Schwab's WEF and receive a formal letter of apology. How do you sue what many may consider evil, the World Economic Forum, and win and get an apology letter in 3 months? He's either that good or, I don't know. Any real journalist or news outlet could have easily found out all this info, but they didn't. Real question is, why?
Yes, why? Why is the ultimate question here. What's going on, Mr. Ramaswamy? I don't know. This isn't sounding very good to me. So let's finish reading this article. I think it's got some good info here. Very plainly, there are questions raised by this video that Vivek must answer. No, I didn't say chuck Vivek out immediately. I said there are questions he needs to answer. If this angers you, then I suggest you go find the answers yourself to cure your cognitive dissonance. When a politician comes out of absolutely nowhere and rockets in the polls, cough, cough, Obama, cough, everybody should be asking questions about his life and who or what is backing and guiding him. It's not usually what it appears on your phone screen, I can tell you that. Let's all do our due diligence as American voters. If we don't, we're stupid, and the ruling class will continue to browbeat us like they enjoy doing so much. P.S. I'm not saying this is Vivek, but I will say the ruling elite is so Machiavellian and obsessed with power that if they sensed a large-scale revolt against the American political establishment, they absolutely would put forth a quote, anti-establishment puppet to get elected so that they could still rule through him or her. Again, I'm not saying this is what's happening with Vivek. I am saying, keep your eyes open. The ruling establishment is familiar with neither rules nor morals. Anyway, just something to keep in mind. That is on notthebee.com. And yeah, we will come back to that in the future. I just thought that was really interesting, and the guy raises a lot of really good points. 5,000 pilots suspected of hiding major health issues, and most are still flying. This is on WAPO, the Washington Post. Federal authorities have been investigating nearly 5,000 pilots suspected of falsifying their medical records to conceal that they were receiving benefits for mental health disorders and other serious conditions that could make them unfit to fly, documents and interviews show. The pilots under scrutiny are military veterans who told the Federal Aviation Administration that they are healthy enough to fly, yet failed to report, as required by law, that they were also collecting veterans' benefits or disabilities for disabilities that could bar them from the cockpit. But this is just on the Washington Post, like I said, mainstream media. And then I found this on Daily Mail. Commercial airlines in the U.S. racked up staggering 46 close calls in the last month alone, with one American Airlines flight to Dallas traveling at 500 miles per hour forced to abrupt 700-foot climb to avoid a United plane. So if you're flying a lot out there, watch out. A lot of near misses just in the last month alone. Dozens of close calls in July are part of an alarming number of near misses in the U.S. this year. Federal Aviation Authority reports reveal such incidents are happening weekly. Human error is often to blame, and a shortage of air traffic controllers has been blamed. That is not good. Not good at all. So something to keep in mind if you're flying a lot, which I have family members that definitely do that. So, breaking. India lands the Chandrayaan-3 on lunar South Pole in major achievement. Becomes new space superpower. Do they? Well, that's what this says. Interesting picture, huh? 1.5 billion Indians, as well as space enthusiasts all over the world, are celebrating a historic feat by the Indian Space Agency in landing a spacecraft on the moon. You think they did it? The outstanding Chandrayaan-2 success is not only a landmark in India's history, but in fact a memorable event for the whole human race. There they are applauding, which who knows where that footage is from. I've seen these still pictures as well as the video footage itself. The joyful Indians have become the first nation to soft land a craft on the lunar South Pole and join the most select group of nations whose space programs have landed crafts on the surface of the moon, along with the U.S., the Soviet Union / Russia, and China. So they say. So here's the ridiculous video if you want to watch it. I personally do not buy this 1 minute. And if you want to see an actual photo of the landing, here's what I found. India sends first pictures back from the moon. That's what it actually looks like on the moon, if you wondered. Yeah, but speaking of the moon, my good friend Bart Sabrell on Sabrell.com has put out a really good article. This is actually from some time ago. I just found out about it recently. Even though I manage Bart's website, I don't often, read all the content on certain websites just because I handle them. But Bart put out this really good biblically based article called "Are There Really Aliens?" quote unquote. God's Spirit clearly says that in the last days some will abandon the truth and follow lying demons. 1 Timothy 4:1. I'll just read the beginning part here, and you guys can read the whole thing if you want. I know for a fact, after hearing him talk about this article, that he spent hundreds of hours putting this article together and all of the research and the scripture and everything that went into this. So if you guys want to be well armed to do battle with those who want to insist that the aliens, the space aliens, as it were, are our space brothers, and you want to present the biblical truth side of things to them, this is a really good article to give you a good foundation on. So I'll read the first couple sentences here. About 90% of the population believes in aliens, quote unquote, from outer space, despite the fact that not a single one has ever been discovered. When the conquistadors invaded South America as aliens, the entire region knew about it, and their presence was undeniable. While the elite-controlled media seems to always portray space aliens as equally genuine and malevolent, is this because they are real or because they want us to think that they are real? The last time I was in a hotel and checked to see which films were on HBO, 3 of the 10 available were about evil space aliens invading Earth. If 1/3 of the films were documentaries about how great the president is, or 1/3 of the films were about how terrible the president is, you might quickly surmise that someone was deliberately trying to influence your perception of reality. Why then does this fact, about 1/3 of the films available, subject matter regarding alleged space aliens invading Earth, go unnoticed as a direct attempt to control how you perceive the truth? Then he goes on and talks about the Watergate scandal and how that's connected as well. False flag alien invasion, and then he goes into some different scripture. So I definitely think that it's worth your time to read through this if you guys want to. It's pretty long, as you can see. And he talks about different parables that Jesus refers to and things like that as well. So very well researched. My good friend Bart Sabrell, Sabrell.com is how you find that. I will link to this in my Substack post if you guys want to read through it. But yeah, really good info. He's the author, by the way. He's the author of the Moon Man book. And here's the homepage of the website. This is his book, and he's the best one out there, in my opinion, talking about how the entire NASA mission that supposedly happened in 1969 to land a man on the moon was completely fabricated. It's all a lie. And he has some really, really good proof on his website and in his book about that actual project. It was merely a pre-recorded film, essentially. They recorded it about a year ahead of time and presented it to the world as live and happening at the time. But in fact, it was shot on essentially a soundstage, which was just a secret base, military base. And the location of the base, the name of the base, is disclosed in the Moon Man book here. So just something to take a look at if you guys are interested in the whole moon craziness. But the fact that India supposedly just landed on the moon, and some of these other countries that they mentioned, I have my doubts in a big way. I'm not saying that it's not possible to travel in space. I do think that Martian, that these Mars jump rooms exist. So if that's the case, there may be a way for, through the secret space program, for actual human beings to travel to the moon, but it's not in the way that NASA says. NASA is a front. NASA is a cover. That's why we call them never a straight answer. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to mention that to you guys. And I found this as well. We talked about the wildfires. World on fire. Questions swirl over global outbreak of active wildfires. Map appears to show entire world engulfed in widespread inferno, just as establishment hypes up climate change fear-mongering. So this is talking about this viral TikTok video. Features a man questioning why active wildfires appear to be prevalent across the globe in the wake of the devastating blaze that destroyed Lahaina. So he's going to talk about the Weather Underground map and so forth. So let's listen to this video. And this is, by the way, this is retweeted by Stu Peters. So I thought this was pretty interesting. Let's check this out.
All right, what you're seeing behind me are active wildfires as identified by satellite. Now this is on Weather Underground. You can set the layers, and you can choose to pull this up. Now I saw this video going on TikTok of this girl going through this, showing the world burning. And I had to go check for myself because I just wanted to verify and make sure. And it was true. All of what you're seeing here are active fires happening presently. And look at Europe. I mean, I've never seen this before. This amount of activity. This is all climate change, right? I mean, look at Africa. Are they okay? Really? Because that is insane. And just wait, we're going to go over to South America next. We're going to take a little hop over the pond. And look at that. I'm sorry, this just doesn't seem normal to me. What do you think?
Nope, it definitely does not seem normal. And if it's real, you can be guaranteed that it's partially, at least, arson in a lot of cases. And then the other stuff that's not arson probably is induced through geoengineering, as we've talked about so much on this show. Anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting and came across this on News Wars. That's where that is. Major supply chain issues are starting to develop all over the country, which, at least on this show, we've been talking about supply chain issues and interruptions for many months, at least off and on. Supply chain problems were supposed to be a thing in the past, but instead our supply chains just keep getting hit by issue after issue. Have you noticed that it has become really difficult to acquire parts to get things repaired? It isn't just your imagination. And have you noticed that store shelves seem rather sparse just about wherever you go shopping? During my latest visit to the local grocery store, I was stunned to see how thin stock levels had become. I assumed that it was because I had arrived at a bad time and they were about to be restocked. But then I started looking into this and discovered that major supply chain issues are starting to develop all over the country. According to a survey that was recently conducted, a whopping 82% of those that visit brick-and-mortar stores have had problems with things being out of stock this year. This figure is up 11% from the same time last year. So this has more information here if you guys want to go through this article. I thought it was pretty good info. And yeah, this is something that is definitely part of the agenda, as you guys know. They are taking down the supply chain while they ship in fentanyl and drop the borders and bring in millions of migrants illegally. And, we're calling that the replacement migration because that's literally what it is. And burning cities and towns to the ground and causing fires, wreaking havoc all over the world. I think there's an agenda afoot, don't you guys? Anyway. And I found this one on TechCrunch. Communication using thought alone, ? Unbabble, interesting name, unveils AI project to give us superhuman capabilities. The language translation startup has linked a wearable device to generative AI, helping unlock ALS patients and more. So there's always a benevolent aspect to these things. They always will tell you that, but they don't bother to tell you the dark side, as it were. Sitting in a meeting room in a startup office in Lisbon, I silently typed a question only the person opposite would know the answer to. What kind of coffee had I asked for when I arrived at the office? A short moment later, without even moving or opening his mouth, the reply came back via text message: "You had an Americano." This wasn't how I expected to spend a Friday afternoon in the city, but here I was, sitting in the offices of Enterprise Language Translation Services startup Unbabble, opposite founder and CEO Vasco Pedro, testing what appeared to be a brain-to-computer interface, and it was pretty astounding. The story begins 4 years ago. Unbabble's core mission, allowing enterprises to understand and be understood by their customers in dozens of languages, long ago led the company to think outside the proverbial box, to develop several projects in-house. It wanted to explore other ways to communicate. Now, as a startup with $90 million in VC funding, annual revenues of around $50 million, and having survived the pandemic, Unbabble is doing well enough to explore these projects. This is a quote: "We had an idea of looking at brain-to-communication interfaces," Pedro tells me. "We started doing a bunch of experiments, like a 20% project. Unbabble's innovation team, led by Paulo Dimas, VP of Product Innovation, looked into the way our brains evolved." Because they have evolved, right? Through evolution. Have they? You have your limbic system, you have your neocortex, but they've actually evolved over millions of years. They're actually separate systems, and I think what we're starting to see is almost the creation of the uber cortex, which we think is going to be AI powered, and it's going to be existing outside your biological brain, says Pedro. So there they are, and more info if you guys want to check it out on TechCrunch. And again, this will be linked to in the Substack post that I do. I just thought that was interesting, and the Unbabble name is highly interesting to me. The fact that it came from the Tower of Babel, where the languages were confused by God on purpose. So, yeah. Anyway, there you go. Gates Foundation pushes national digital ID tech, pushing the controversial technology in India. The digital era, with its myriad of innovations, has ushered in a wave of conveniences, but at what cost? The recent advocacy by Bill and Melinda for their modular open-source identification platform will now be under scrutiny by privacy advocates questioning the broader implications of such a global digital identification system. The Seattle-based Gates Foundation, guided by the UN Sustainable Development Goals, has actively endorsed MOSIP's undertakings with a sizable $10 million pledge. They're giving money to Gates for this purpose. So what does that tell you? This is part of the beast system they're trying to roll out, right? Anyway, it says, Bill Gates' tweet here says 850 million people lack ID that proves their identity. And they really want one, I guess, right? Apparently they do. As a result, they're shut out of a lot of services that could change their lives. That's why I'm so excited about MOSIP, an open source technology that could dismantle barriers worldwide. Anyway, there it is. It's on reclaimthenet.org is where that is. On Red State, 14 American cities aim to ban meat, dairy, and private cars by 2030. You guys live in one of these cities? Here they are. It says nearly 100 cities across the world make up the organization. American city members include Austin, Boston, Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, New York City, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, D.C., and Seattle. It says in a move that is just downright daffy, not to mention leaning hard into totalitarianism, 14 American cities are aiming at what is sure to be an elusive target, banning meat and dairy consumption and the use of private automobiles in just 7 years. Oh, I think they can do it. I think they can, because it's going to come down from on high. The WEF, the World Economic Forum, of course, and the UN and others. Bill Gates and all of them. They're all in it for this exact reason. So 14 cities, look for that to expand, in my opinion. There is, of course, one thing all these cities have in common. Indeed, it's the same thing in most major urban areas have in common. Probably meaning crime. Just to belabor the obvious, these people are elitists of the worst sort. There is an apocryphal quote attributed to Duke of Wellington, who supposedly opposed the development of passenger railroads. The Duke supposedly claimed that these railroads would promote unrest by allowing the lower classes to travel too freely about. That is, as you can see, precisely the mindset we see in play here. Yes, we do not want the lower classes to be able to travel. Lower classes, of course, meaning everyone else who are not part of the elite. So, yeah, it's unclear how a maximum income level, which certainly wouldn't apply to grafting politicians, would help with carbon emissions unless, of course, it's set so low to prevent people from being able to afford to travel or eat well or heat their homes. It's too bad there isn't some kind of historical example that these leftists could examine to see how well their model works. Yes, it's too bad. I'm talking about the Soviet Union is what it's linking to. So anyway, yeah. Welcome to communism, right? This is part of it. North of Richmond singer addresses a rumor he's a Biden supporter. You guys know this song, I'm sure. Many people have heard this by this point. I think we're approaching 30 million views last time I checked on YouTube. The musician behind the viral blue-collar anthem North of Richmond is setting the record straight about his political affiliations. Oliver Anthony shot down suggestions that he's a supporter of Biden. Says, corporate news, big surprise, is now trying to twist me into being a Biden supporter, he stated with a laughing emoji image on his, I guess, Instagram. Country folk musician clarified that the message of North of Richmond is critical of establishment politicians across the partisan aisle. He said that the song that had been made reference to in the Republican debate that happened the other night, and he was kind of laughing about that as well, because the Republicans were trying to claim that the song was somehow, helping their message too. And he's like, no, I'm not on either side. So he's trying to defend what he's singing about. I think that's a good thing. But both sides are trying to take credit for how popular this song is, which is very typical of the rich men in the D.C. area, is it not? So Edward Snowden suggests the FBI probably already has a file on Oliver Anthony, the singer of the song we just mentioned a minute ago. Snowden, who famously leaked classified information from the NSA in 2013, recently claimed that the FBI probably has a file on singing sensation Oliver Anthony. You think? I think they have a file on all of us. Says millions of Americans who have become skeptical about the FBI in recent years will probably find this easy to believe. His song, Richmond, North of Richmond, has resonated with America because it's so critical of the government. That alone could spark the interest of the intel community. Yep, I'm sure it did. Especially when I would say it probably didn't need very many views before it did that. Once it came out on the big tech platforms, there's probably a red flag that went up at some point somewhere for this guy. So of course they're going to be watching him. It remains to be seen if anything happens. But they don't like this type of message getting out there, especially when it's so popular. Next one I've got here is 9 masked smash and grab thieves ransack Macy's in Los Angeles, shove stolen merchandise in trash bags. So the hellhole that is Los Angeles is front and center here again in this article, which we've mentioned that in the last few broadcasts that I've done. It seems like crazy stuff happening in, especially smash and grabs, I guess, in Los Angeles. It says smash and grab thieves ransacked a Macy's store in L.A. on Thursday. So this is separate from the other one that I reported. I think it was just last week. This is a new one. It says the disturbing trend of smash and grabs is plaguing Democrat-run California. Well, they know they're not going to get punished, so that's why they're doing it. They are teaming up and then busting in stores and just taking anything and everything that they want. Next one I've got pulled up here is Greece arrests almost 80 arsonist scum as EU's largest ever wildfires rage across the country. Greece's catastrophic wildfires taken a disturbing turn as police authorities have arrested 79 individuals on charges of arson. Says the suspects are being held responsible for deliberately setting fires that have caused widespread devastation across the country. Greece has witnessed several attempts by arsonists to spark new fires amidst the ongoing wildfires, perhaps in an attempt to blame it on climate change. Yes, that's pretty easy to do at this point. They're blaming everything on climate change. So, okay, the Biden regime has declared war again, only this time they've declared war on your ceiling fans. To fight climate change, settles on costly new scheme that could put small manufacturers out of business. That is part of the plan. First, the Biden regime came for your gas stove, then your dishwashers, then your gas furnaces, and then your water heaters. Now, the Biden regime is targeting your ceiling fans, jeopardizing small businesses in the process. Like the other previous schemes, the primary purpose is to advance the regime's radical climate change agenda. Keeping in mind that climate change is actually climate changed with a D, and it's being changed on purpose using geoengineering. That is climate change. Anyway, so they're coming after our ceiling fans now. So are you guilty for having ceiling fans? No comment. No comment from me. Fans pour out of stadium after 2 people were shot at Chicago White Sox game. So we have LA, now we're talking Chicago here. So it was a shooting at the White Sox game. Caused people to flee from Guaranteed Rate Field, located on the south side of Chicago. Police confirmed a shooting took place in the left field bleachers. A 90s-themed concert featuring Vanilla Ice and others was canceled after the shooting. Wow. So there you go. Shooting up the baseball games now, huh? Doesn't really explain how people got a gun into the game, because unless they've turned those things off in Chicago, typically you would have to go through some sort of security checkpoint to even go into the arena, to even go into the baseball field here. So how somebody got a gun in, I have no idea. But they did. Or they were let in. I don't know which. Virginia family pulls teen from high school after they told him to take down his mounted American flags on his truck. And this is the face he made. High school senior Christopher Heartless. Oh boy, that's quite a name. He's heartless and he's an American flag flyer. Quits school because administrators told him to remove the mounted American flags from his truck. He refused because it clearly violated his First Amendment rights. He says, I don't understand. It's a distraction if they have one on the flagpole and for every other student to see, and says Heartless refused to take down the flags, and schools also revoked his parking pass. Wow. They're so cold. Could you imagine if he was flying a rebel flag? Man, what a mess that would have been. So this was in, where was this? This was in Virginia. That's where this was. So, wow. The rich men north of Richmond are stopping this kid from flying a flag in his truck. Joe Biden laughs and gives snarky remark when asked for comments on Trump's mugshot. So I was looking to see if there was a video clip of his snarky remark, but there is no video embedded here. But what he said was, I did see it on television. Handsome guy, Biden said. That's all he said. Joe, I have a feeling you're going to get yours, pal. I really do. Maybe not in this lifetime, but you will. John Kerry says climate change deniers are part of a dangerous cult. So if you're a climate change denier, you are part of a dangerous cult. I say that we should start saying that John Kerry is part of the geoengineering denier cult. What do you guys think? He's denying that geoengineering is even happening because he's referring to climate change. So climate change is part of a cult. Yep. I'm not denying that things aren't happening, but it's as a result of geoengineering, and that he is denying. So John Kerry is a member of the geoengineering denying cult. Dangerous, very dangerous. And he's far more dangerous than you and I are. Biden's climate czar, John Kerry, on Thursday angrily lashed out at so-called climate change deniers and accused people who dared question the settled science, which science is never settled, by the way, of being in a dangerous cult. This type of dehumanizing language should be condemned. Yes, but that's how they get their point across, and that's how they demonize the people who disagree with them. And then when you demonize your opponent, you are then setting up a system where you can do anything you want to the people who criticize you. You can get rid of them if you really want to. So yeah, climate change deniers is what he said. So here's the article I made reference to earlier when we started the broadcast. Over 2,000 children missing from Lahaina public schools 2 weeks after the Maui fire. So this is even as of 3 days ago. Hawaii State Department of Education issued a report Thursday stating that 2,025 students are not accounted in the Lahaina public school system in the wake of the August 8th fire that ravaged the town of Lahaina on the island of Maui. The 4 schools, 2 elementary, 1 intermediary, and 1 high school that comprised the Lahaina School District had a total of 3,001 students enrolled before the fire. The schools are closed due to the damage from the fires, and 1 elementary school heavily damaged and not likely to reopen for some time. The other 3 suffered damage from high winds, debris, and soot. The report does not mention whether or even the likelihood many of the missing children were killed in the fire. So they're saying 2,025 students are not accounted for. Now, it's possible some of those kids just, haven't been able to report in, but what is that? Well, that could also mean that there are nearly that many who are gone. We just don't know. And of course, the people in charge are being completely mum on what's happening with the whole story. Hold your beer. Biden regime considering strict new booze guideline to pressure Americans to limit alcohol consumption. So ceiling fans are only part of the story. They're also going to make people supposedly here restrict their booze intake. It says the Biden regime is seemingly not satisfied with throwing innocent Americans in prison or coming after gas stoves in the name of climate change. Now they want you to enjoy less beer. It says the Biden regime's health czar, Dr. Koob, told the Daily Mail Thursday, which describes the guidelines as strict, that the United States Department of Agriculture is strongly considering emulating Canada's alcohol advice in an attempt to pressure Americans to limit their consumption. I wonder if that means to tax them. Canada recommends that their citizens consume no more than 2 drinks per week because that is the government's job, right? Koob, who admits to consuming wine twice a week, thinks there are possible health benefits to such a proposal, but he and his team and flunkies will be exempt, most likely. Says this would mark a significant change in current U.S. guidelines, which state women can have up to 1 bottle of beer and a small glass of wine or a shot of a spirit a day, while men can have 2. This means men would be urged to reduce their alcohol consumption from 14 drinks to just 2, while for women it would be 7 to 2. So there you go. Now you know, if you're an alcohol consumer, just be on the lookout. Biden is coming for your drink. Wow. Speaking of which, Indiana man arrested for driving while intoxicated on children's Power Wheels toy. So if you want to blame the whole Biden thing on somebody, I guess this guy's guilty. He was drunk driving a children's Power Wheels toy while intoxicated, it says. James McKee, 51, was stopped by Indiana State Police in Vincennes around 9 p.m. on Wednesday for driving without lights or a reflector. So I don't know. He must have been driving this thing on the road. Pretty funny. The trooper said McKee was driving the toy car erratically and showing signs of impairment. Otherwise, I guess it was fine. He was driving this little toy down the street. Pretty funny. Anyway, man, little moment of levity there, right? Student pilot suffers cardiac arrest during training flight at Fort Novacel. Shocking incident. I'm not shocked. I don't know about you guys. Occurred on Friday, August 18th, when a student pilot went into cardiac arrest during a training flight at Fort Novacel. Despite the serious nature of the event, military officials have stated that an investigation will not be conducted. Military watchdog site TRMLX reported that a student pilot who was engaged in a nap of the Earth flight, a low-altitude maneuver used by military aircraft to avoid enemy detection, suffered from cardiac arrest on August the 18th. During the flight, the pilot suddenly slumped over the controls. The second student pilot quickly reacted, pulling him off the controls, while the instructor pilot safely landed the aircraft. So, man, it's a good thing they had some backups there. Anyway, so now we've got student pilots having heart attacks in mid-flight. So, Charles III, good old AC, coming AC, right? Charles III reportedly fears new Epstein-related bombs may still be about to hit Prince Andrew. The king may be trying to distract from recent corruption allegations at his charity. At this point in time, no one is surprised when another wave of bad headlines about Prince Andrew hit the newsstand on the web. So when it arises that King Charles is concerned that more information will come to light connecting Prince Andrew to Jeffrey Epstein, we think it's just another day in fair old United Kingdom. Yep. Anyway, especially when you're part of the coming Antichrist's family, right? So we talked about this last week. I have not heard from our friend that we mentioned last week, Tim Cohen, and so we'll talk about that more maybe next week if I still haven't heard from him. But just wanted to let you guys know I did email him, as I mentioned last week, and just that one time emailed him. I think it was a week ago Friday. Have not heard from him, but hopefully will soon. We will see what happens. And I saw this and was saddened when I read the headline. Shocking video released. 98-year-old newspaper owner dies a day after the entire police force raids her home. Newly released footage by the Marion County Record shows an alarming raid on the home of a 98-year-old newspaper owner, Joan Meyer, which resulted in her tragic death. Earlier this month, the Gateway Pundit reported that the city of Marion's 5-officer police force, along with 2 sheriff's deputies, conducted the raid on the Marion County Records Office in the home of owner and publisher Eric Meyer. The shocking operation left Joan Meyer, Eric's mother, who lived with him, and co-owner of the paper, dead, and has been characterized by Meyer as an assault on press freedom. Wow. So here's the video. It's here if you want to watch it. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, this is talking about the actual happenings as far as what happened on the video here. It says the raid came on the heels of a bitter feud between the Marion County Record and a local restaurant owner. The newspaper had reportedly acquired sensitive documents, potentially leading to the revocation of this person Newell's liquor license. These documents included evidence of drunk driving convictions and operating a vehicle without a license. While the paper decided not to report on the story, they did notify the police about the documents, suspecting they were leaked by someone close to this person's ex-husband. According to Daily Mail, a woman named Pam tipped off Marion County Recorder about the DUI and talking about where she got the files. In response, Newell publicly accused the paper of illegally obtaining and disseminating the information. The newspaper published a story to clarify its position, but was quickly followed by Friday's raid. So that's why they were raided. So does that mean that these people that caused the raid to happen are also going to be held accountable? Because now this lady's dead. So anyways, yeah. That's on the Gateway Pundit. And so is this one. The cause and manner of death released by Obama's longtime chef, Tafari Campbell. So here it is. Case closed. And basically we know nothing more than we did before. The Office of Chief Medical Examiner on Tuesday released the final cause and manner of death for Campbell. Cause drowning, manner accident, how injury occurred, submersion in a body of water. So there you go. Nothing to see here. Move along and do not ask any questions. The man is dead and case closed. We're done investigating because it's Barack Insane Obama. So there you go. Another one getting away with it, right? Maui video drone pilot says government officials shut down the drone during flight over suspected fire origin zone. So it says a licensed drone operator in Maui says his drone was grounded and he was visited by government officials because he flew his drone over the suspected origin site of the massive fire. So, wow. This is one more incident of government secrecy that has caused great concern by the residents. It says that there's a no-fly zone over Lahaina. So apparently he was flying his drone anyway. So they made him shut it down. But they're not covering anything up. No, not at all. Man. Former University of Houston basketball player Reggie Chaney dead at 23, cause unknown. Former college basketball player known for his contributions to the Houston Cougars' Final Four run in 2021 passed away on Monday at the ripe old age of 23. The exact cause of his death remains unknown. So another youngster gone. King Charles scandal-plagued charity escapes criminal investigation again despite proof of cash for honors scheme. But he's the Antichrist, so he can get away with it, right? Well, he's not yet, I guess, theoretically. Another day, another UK royal scandal swept under the rug. Trouble is brewing at Charles's Prince Foundation, a charity that purports to provide holistic solutions to challenges facing the world today. It also champions a sustainable approach to how we live our lives and build our communities. And it runs a diverse program of education and training for all ages and backgrounds. A whole lot of hogwash, too, apparently. Despite such lofty aspirations, the scandal-plagued institution is again in the headlines for a cash for honors scandal involving a wealthy Saudi businessman. Once again, the Windsors can count on the absolute inaction of law enforcement when it comes to them. Yep. It's okay if they do it. So anyway, this is talking about cash for honors. So if you pay enough, you too can be rewarded with whatever. A knighthood or something. Who knows? But I guess we shouldn't expect any more from the coming Antichrist, right? Tropical Storm Hillary, we talked about this last week. And I remember saying that, it might be a much ado about nothing. It wasn't nothing. There was definitely some flooding. Here's one of the articles I found about it. Tropical Storm Hillary causes massive flooding in Palm Springs. Cars submerged. Says made landfall in Southern California on Sunday with maximum sustained winds of 65 miles an hour. Southern California was hammered by rain and strong winds. As Hillary moved through the region, Hillary caused massive flooding in Palm Springs and the surrounding area in Coachella Valley. Palm Springs received record rainfall on Sunday. So this would have been last Sunday. So anyways, yeah. So that was one article. I think I found another one too. This one, yeah. LA Dodgers Stadium is flooded just months after mocking God. You guys remember this? LA Dodgers had their latest game against Marlins canceled after Hurricane Hillary caused Dodger Stadium to flood. Hurricane Hillary hit California on Sunday, resulted in widespread flooding, mudslides, and high winds. It says the flooding at Dodger Stadium occurs just a couple of months after the Dodgers decided to host the satanic trans nuns group, Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, on Dodgers Pride Night. Gateway Pundit previously reported the trans nun group has been known to stage sex acts that mock Jesus' crucifixion. Yep, and they were doing it right there, and now it got flooded. Was it a coincidence? Are you a coincidence theorist? Anyway, I won't say I'm too sad about that, but not too surprised either. Information liberation. Okay, we've got several different headlines here. I thought this one right here was interesting. NBC News edits Trump's mugshot to make it more orange. So there it is. You can see the before and after. Here's the real one here. NBC News on Thursday night released an edited version of former President Trump's mugshot that was changed to appear more orange. Why would they do that? Orange man bad, right? Not too surprising, but they can't possibly report the truth. That's just not in their lexicon, is it? Vivek caves on plan to cut aid to Israel. This is what he says. We would never cut off aid to Israel until Israel told us they were ready. He must have got himself into trouble a little bit on the debate that happened the other night. GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy ran away from his proposal to cut aid to Israel by 2028 on Saturday, instead promising he would provide endless U.S. aid to Israel until Israel told us they were ready for it to be cut off. Isn't that convenient? So there have been, several other things that have come out about candidate Ramaswamy here. So we'll look at that. I think I had that pulled up on another tab. But it is kind of interesting, some of the stuff that's coming out about him. And as you guys know, if you've watched the show before, I've played some clips of him talking, and obviously he's saying a lot of the right things. But there are definitely some huge question marks that need to be answered for sure. And again, not that it matters, because our elections are captured. So let's look at a few of the other headlines here on information liberation. It says Trump's mugshot was supposed to be an exercise in humility, the Atlantic whines. So they were offended that he wasn't cowering in the corner in his mugshot, I guess. Biden's DOJ sues Musk's SpaceX for hiring Americans over refugees and asylum seekers. So shame on you, Musk, for hiring Americans. And then, I don't know if you guys bothered to watch any of the Republican debate. I saw some of it, but only because I was watching a live stream about it, where somebody was doing commentary, running commentary on that, and also going back and forth between the Trump thing when he was talking to Tucker Carlson as well. It was kind of a back and forth, but I did hear a lot of the debate, which I don't normally watch it, but I was kind of interested to see what Vivek was going to say, and I think he did pretty well. But this Nikki Haley, she's something else, isn't she? Man, says it's not that Israel needs America, America needs Israel, she says. Really? Do we really? So yeah, anyway, there's quite a few headlines here on information liberation. And then Summit.News, Maui fire, FEMA demanded responders stop posting images and videos. Just stop it. FEMA sent out letters to first responders and relief workers in Maui demanding that they stop posting images and videos of the charred disaster area on social media, citing cultural sensitivity. And also, we don't want to cover up or we don't want to uncover our crimes, right? They're asking for a full stop in disaster imagery going forward. No disaster imagery. So this is a tweet here that I found from Matt Walsh. You guys may know who he is. Just to review, the local government in Maui didn't use the sirens to alert residents to the fire. They didn't allow access to water to put out the fire, and they blocked the only exits out of town. This is one of the greatest scandals in American history. Many people should be in prison, and we still don't know the body count, which is amazing. So you guys may have seen this, and on the heels of that, I actually posted this. So let's start with this. Them, how big of a conspiracy theorist are you? Me, hear me out. And you see the guy painting the blue on the roof here. Well, I don't know if you guys have seen this video, and again, I will link to this in my Substack tomorrow. But let me just play just a second of this, and you guys may have seen this already. You can see what happens. The laser weapon can be programmed for different wavelengths. You can see here that it's not burning the blue fabric. It's burning all the other fabrics. And this video is talking about a lot of the things that I'm sure many of you guys have already noticed, in that some of the blue stuff, like the umbrellas that people have talked about, and some of the blue cars and things like that, were not burned. Why is that? Why is that? In this guy's video, he's talking about this red car in particular. And interestingly enough, well, he's saying in the video that the car was grounded. It grounded out because the electrical lines were laying over the top of it, and then that's why it didn't burn. And I don't know about that. I have my doubts on that, but it is interesting that the license plate on this car, let me see if I can find it, says no kids. No kids. Now, why would it say no kids? Pretty interesting, huh? Anyway, but that's a red car. I don't know. I'm not sure why the red car didn't get burned, but this was the woman in this video that you hear her voice. She's excited about the car because I think it's her car. But it is very interesting about the whole blue thing, and many of the blue items not burning. And there was at least one report I saw of a house that had a red metal roof, that the house was totally fine and didn't burn. So why is that? Why is that? I mean, it's possible that, the official story is that a metal roof would inhibit, would keep the embers, from burning, because obviously the embers flying around are going to land on roofs first and foremost and burn the house down from there. So, I mean, I don't know. Metal roof obviously would keep that from happening. So that might explain the red house that has become semi-famous for withstanding the fire. But who knows on the blue things, because there's lots of blue stuff that apparently made it through the fire just fine. And I don't have it queued up, but there was another video I found of a guy who found some blue T-shirts, totally fine, and they had the paper tags on them still, just in a pile of rubble. Everything else around him was burned, but he pulled the shirts out and they were fine. Blue shirts, only the blue ones survived. So, obviously we know that arson is involved here as well. We know the power companies are at fault for leaving the power on in the town while the hurricane force winds were blowing down the poles, and they hadn't bothered to trim the brush on purpose for several years, apparently, in different places, and that also helped spark the fires because the electricity was left on, the water was shut off, and when the electric poles were snapped, then that created an arc which went back and exploded the transformers and then caused more and more fires. And of course that spread like wildfire, literally. So we know that's part of the story, but people are talking about dews and other weapons that have been used, and I don't know how else you would explain all of the blue things that survived the fire and other things that didn't. So going back to this, is that a coincidence? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I do find it very interesting for sure. Okay, let me see what other articles I can find here that I missed earlier. I think I jumped too far down my list of tabs. So here's an article I was going to mention. Revolver.news, donate. This is an Amish person who is under fire here. It says U.S. government raids Amish cattle farmer, seizing his property in a shocking display of overreach. Which, obviously this is not the first time we've heard of this, but yet again, I should say. It says Americans are watching in absolute shock and horror as our government, which is supposed to fear the people, runs roughshod over everyone and everything deemed an enemy. Whether that's President Trump, U.S. voters, J6 prisoners, Julian Assange, Douglas Mackey, convicted of conspiracy for sharing an anti-Hillary meme. Yeah, he's still in jail. Or a harmless Amish farmer simply minding his own business. Our government has grown too big for its britches and lost its way. And speaking of the innocent Amish farmer, that's what this story is about today. A Virginia man, back to Virginia, who was raided by the government but is fighting back and desperately needs your support. So this is a story about this guy, Samuel B. Fisher, who is a mild-mannered cattle farmer operating a 100-acre farm in Virginia's heartland. So anyway, they have come down hard on him, and apparently he is needing some help. So I will link to this article in my Substack post so you guys can go read about this guy and see what the story is on this. So, but they go after the Amish a lot because I think they're an easy target for the government, and who knows? I mean, they come after him for all kinds of made up nonsense, made up charges and stuff that they try and shut him down, and especially if the Amish farmers happen to be selling any of their dairy or any of their other products off their farm. If they're selling it, boy, they're really opening themselves up to problems, seems like. So paper straws. You thought you were saving the environment by using paper straws, right? Nope. They contain toxic forever chemicals that could be worse than plastic. Mm-hmm. Are you shocked? Me neither. It could be the straw that broke the eco-warrior's back. Oh, that's good. I doubt it, though. Paper straws might not be the eco-friendly drinking tube that they've been promoted to be. Belgian researchers found that these so-called green utensils are toxic and therefore potentially worse for the environment than their much vilified plastic counterparts, according to a new study published by the Journal of Food Additives and Contaminants. Straws made from plant-based materials such as paper and bamboo are often advertised as being more sustainable and eco-friendly than those made from plastic. However, the presence of PFAS chemicals, known as forever chemicals, because they last for a long time before breaking down in these straws, means that is not necessarily true. So you mean that there's some fraud involved in the eco movement? No. So some of the other articles on vaccine impact: Maui resident uploading raw video footage being threatened and fears for his life. I saw this video, actually. Jeff Cygnus is the guy on, he's on TikTok in particular, but he's got a YouTube channel as well. Feel free to look him up if you guys want to. But he's taken some interesting precautions on how to get footage out, and his footage is really good. But yeah, apparently they're trying to shut him down, silence him, because they don't want the truth to come out. There will be terrible times in the last days. The Holy Scriptures are able to make you wise. So there is another article on vaccine impact. Maui fire survivors claim the police prevented people from escaping. Dramatic video footage, which you guys know we've been talking about that ad nauseum. But man, the story just won't go away. And I think more and more stuff is going to keep coming out because they keep trying to cover it up. And when they do that, more and more stuff comes out. That's the way it should be. That is real. That's the real media working, by the way. That's the way the media, that's what the press should be doing. And instead it's alt media doing that. It's people on the ground who live there, who care about the fact that everything burned down, and they've lost everything, and they are the ones out there doing the reporting. So good for them. All right, this week's Geoengineering Watch Global Alert News, show number 420. Mr. Dane here says, while the Maui firestorm details are still being unraveled, nearly 40 million acres of forest has incinerated in Canada since late spring. 40 million acres. Wow. This staggering number equates to nearly 60,000 square miles an area nearly the size of the state of Georgia that's gone up in flames in only a few short months. Wow, that's a lot of area. Other countries that have been and are being incinerated include Spain and Greece, Portugal, Turkey, Italy, France, Canary Islands, Kazakhstan, the UK, and more. Where is mainstream media coverage of these incinerations? Constant high-pressure heat domes are baking numerous parts of the world, including the U.S., where Kansas just hit a record-shattering heat index temperature of 134 degrees. Wow. Last week, ABC News stated the firestorms are going to get worse, quote-unquote. So that tells you what's coming, huh? Fisheries are collapsing along with crops as ocean temperatures continue to skyrocket. A major science source is now asking, can humans live underground to survive what is coming? How long till impact? So, yeah, Dane's latest broadcast is there. And I would mention, too, that I'm the webmaster for Dane for this website. And you guys can jump on the newsletter list right here. It's on most of the pages. You can just click that and sign up, and you'll get the email blasted to you when we send out new videos, new articles, and so forth on geoengineeringwatch.org. And yes, that is the real climate change. Climate changed with a D. It's called geoengineering. And John Kerry is a geoengineering denier. I can pretty comfortably say that at this point. All right. Let's see here. We may have reached the end of the articles. I think we might have. We may have. Yes. Okay, so let's take a look at what you guys are saying in chat. There's a lot of chatting going on Rumble, which I'll get to that actually. Let me see what you guys are saying over on YouTube and Facebook. I can pull that up, the ones that are showing up on the screen here. See what you guys are up to. Got quite a few people tuned in. We got officially what? 30-some people, I guess, on the main Facebook page and the YouTube, and then about another 15 or so, I guess, watching on Rumble at the moment. Verba Homefront says, just remember this Trump idiocy is definitely not about distracting you from the Maui democide. Yes, that's true. But the people that I'm following, I mean, are doing both. They're covering what's going on with Trump. I mean, I think that should be talked about, whether you like him or not. I mean, the guy is being persecuted, for sure. I mean, it's just obvious. It's just so obvious what's going on as far as them trying to jail him so that he can't run, which they have to stop him in one way or another. And I think they'll probably try and kill him if they can't jail him. You know what I mean? If they knew they were down power lines, why didn't they cut the power off? Or would that be counterproductive in fighting the fire? Oh, wait, they didn't fight the fires. Yeah, Susan, you're right. They left them on purpose so that it would burn down. That's the short answer. Yep. I mean, normally a hurricane comes along, and that's one of the first things they do is they tell you when a hurricane's coming along to be prepared because there's a good chance the power will go out. And when the hurricane force winds are starting to kick up, they automatically shut the power down. That's why the power goes out, not because the wind blew it out, but because the power companies' systems are so expensive to maintain, and they're trying to preserve their system. They want to stay in business as long as possible, right? So theoretically, that's usually why the power gets shut down if a hurricane's coming. Well, they didn't do that this time. They purposely let the branches and trees and stuff like that grow up along the power lines in a lot of places in Lahaina. And on top of that, they shut the water off and they left the power on so that people couldn't do anything about it. And then all these fires started. I'm not saying that's 100% of everything that happened because there's a lot of other question marks. Like we talked about the blue painted roofs and the blue painted various things, all the blue umbrellas that survived the fire and some of the other things like the shirts. And there's definitely some strange things that happen. I mean, does blue not burn? Did I miss that somewhere in physics or chemistry class or something? I don't remember that. Blue doesn't burn. So anyway, so obviously it seems to me like, you know, they're obviously working on a cover up as much as they can. So something else is going on. Obviously the people in charge, the administrative people in charge were at fault here, but there could have been a larger play on what happened as far as whether or not it was directed energy weapons or something else is very possible. I don't think we can know that, and we may never know that, but the point is there's a lot of weirdness for sure that happened. So yeah, we don't ask questions like that, Susan, unless we want to be Jeffrey Epstein. That's funny. Yep. Well, hopefully I answered your question. Many of us are undoubtedly already flagged for extermination. Truthers who can't be re-educated are going to be targeted for sure. Yep, I agree. I think you're right. In that wild, I had no idea that you could elude a do like that before all this happened. I'm not sure that you can. The video that we watched a clip of, keep in mind that they can tune in that case, the laser to a certain frequency and ignore other frequencies. So that's all that was happening there. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened in Hawaii. We just don't know. But that's one possible answer. So Emily says BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, circular ownership. Yeah, and they, I think BlackRock alone accounts for like $15 trillion in liquid assets, and in quadrillions in other funds. So I mean, they have more money than any of the governments do. So yeah, it's no wonder that they have their way with everybody and everything. I mean, one of the numbers I heard was that BlackRock, forget the Fortune 500, BlackRock has a stake in like 88%. This is the number I heard, 88% of the Fortune 5,000. 88% of the Fortune 5,000 BlackRock owns a piece of. And you wonder why things are so corrupt. I mean, you have literally one entity like that has so much control over everybody and everything. So, sounds like the beast to me. I don't know about you guys. Multiple event, the heisters pillaged, burned, abducted, distracted, and land grabbed and consolidated lies to smoke and mirror their blunders, William says. Yeah, that does sound like what happened. AJ is right a lot. He won't say that Maui could have been hit with dews at all. I think at least it's part of their demonic plan, same as Paradise. Kathy, what he said on that is that he thinks that it's entirely possible, but that it's arson. It's a clear-cut case of arson, and that dews, while it is what he calls a, quote, sexy thing to talk about, and it is real, it does exist. He admits that. He's just saying that we can't prove that, but we can prove the part it's being reported about all over mainstream media, and that is the whole thing with the power company. The power company they are on the hook here because it's front and center that people know that the power was left on. I think that is the main part he's focused on, is what is provable. And he said over and over that yes, dues do exist, but we can't really prove that was involved. I personally think that there was something else at play, just based on the whole blue thing that we talked about. Blue things being left alone. Something else had to be at play, but that doesn't mean that it was only that or only the other thing. I think it's probably a combination of several things. I think you have the power being left on as part of it, while potentially maybe some other energy weapon of some sort was also another part of it. I don't know. And we may never know, like I said. You're absolutely right, Doug. Payday someday for Biden. Yeah. Biden will get his comeuppance. He will. And so will Fauci. They all will. They all will. But then again, we're all guilty of something, right? Just not something that like what they have done, but only Jesus is capable of saving us. And so it's his blood that covers our sins. And unless those people repent, people we're talking about here, Biden, Bill Gates, Anthony Fauci, those people, if they don't repent, then yes, they're where they're going to end up is not very good. Not very good at all. Looks like horns were coming out of John Kerry's head, Susan says. I didn't see that, but yeah. And maybe it was. Maybe the horns are slipping through. People enjoy drinking, and they don't want any enjoyment amongst the slave class, Verba Homefront says. I'm having a beer under a fan and a gas stove and a water heater. Good for you, William. That's awesome. Yes. A rebel with a cause. That's funny. Vivek says, everything right, but I don't trust him. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think he does say everything right. And, I've learned to question those types of things. And obviously, we need to take a look at exactly what's going on with some of his history. It definitely seems questionable, for sure. But he is saying the right things. I'll give him that. But again, I don't think it'll matter, again, because of the just the fact that our elections are captured. And until that changes, it's not going to matter. Blue umbrellas on the beach line the decks near the shorelines of the homes that survived the fires. Yeah, I know. I've seen those blue umbrellas. Santana apologized, did he? Okay, yeah. Of course he did. Because I would imagine he got a phone call from Spotify saying, hey, you apologize or we're going to remove you from our platform. If they do that, as a musician, I can tell you this firsthand. As a musician and artist, if Spotify removes you, you're broke. I mean, that's where most people, if you're an artist, that's where most of your funds come from these days. Touring is the main part, really, because you can sell merchandise. But nobody's selling records anymore. Nobody sells CDs. Nobody sells anything else. Maybe a little vinyl, depending on who the artist is. It's mostly merchandise. And the little bit of few pennies you get for millions of streams on Spotify is about the only other money you can make. So if Spotify would have called him up and basically told him he had to come out and correct the record, quote unquote, correct the record, he would have done it, I'm sure. I mean, most artists would. So that's probably in part what happened. If not that, then probably someone at the record label or something like that. It's hard to say. I appreciate your audio skills. Can you mix a tape for me if I send it to you for the fun of it? William says. Mix a tape. I probably could. Depends on what we're mixing. Maybe send me an email on that, William. I would be able to answer that question better with a few more details. But happy to see if I can help you do that. Can't prove the dues. Maybe they're experimenting with different types, but no sirens. The roads were closed. Power's connected. Is proof enough? Yeah. And again, you got to stick with the things that are provable. Dues are not provable, although very well suspected, and certainly should suspect it. It's not as provable as the fact that the power was left on, the water was turned off, the roads were barricaded, and you're right. Yeah, no sirens. Man, just total craziness is what that is. And it was a plan. Obviously, we know that they want to build a 15-minute city in that same spot. And they had to get the natives off the land, right? They had to move them. And the only way to move them is to destroy them and kill them all. I mean, that's literally what we're talking about here. And that's the people running this country and the people running our world. So anyway, all right, let's see where we left off. I've got the Substack thing here pulled up. If you guys want to subscribe, if you're not already, we certainly appreciate that. It's free. Just drop your email address in there on the screen. Hit the subscribe button, or you can just do no thanks, and you can still come here to the page that has. Let me reduce that a little. You can come here to the page that has all of the any of the links on here, and I send out 2 Substack emails each week, and the reason there's 2 is because one of them is the audio only podcast, and it says the word podcast on here so that you know what you're dealing with. So this particular email that you get would just have the podcast, just the audio version of this show. And then the main email that I send out, though, will say the word links right in it. So that's what that is. And then if you look at this particular one, this is the one from last week. The first links that show up here at the top, and this will look the same in your email that you get. The first links are the links to the full uncensored show back on these different platforms. BitChute, Rumble, Brighteon, Facebook, ClickView. So that's when I post the show tomorrow, those links right here that will be at the top of the email you receive, those will be to those platforms. So that will be the cleaned up, tightened up final version of this live show that will show up here on BitChute, Rumble, Brighteon, Facebook, and ClickView. So that's what that is. And then there's the different products. We mentioned the Doug mug earlier. Let's see here. The Doug mug, I think. Sam has this one, the Diamond Report mug. Right there. That's what that was. And then article links is where the article links start for all of the things I talked about. Now, these are all the article links from last week. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you dizzy here, but these are all the things that we talked about last week. So there's lots of stuff there, and the show for tonight, that will have a similar posting that happens tomorrow afternoon at some point. So we will do that. And yeah, thanks so much, you guys, for being here tonight. Thank you for another great broadcast. Doug, Susan says, God bless everyone. Take care until we meet again. Yeah, and thank you guys for being here tonight. I guess we could wrap it up. I've got one more video here we could show. Actually, there's a couple I didn't show if you guys want to stick around. So let me show you the last couple pages I have pulled up here, and we can go from there. This is the store, which you guys know, and the link for that is in the upper right corner there. Shop.thediamond.report. That's where that is. And then this is the YouTube channel you guys know who are already on there. And I'm watching the subscriber count drop almost not every day, but every few days. It's crazy. I know what's going on there, but it's not the end of the world. Because we're on Rumble, and we are on BitChute, and Brighteon, and ClickView. So that's the different video platforms I'm on. So feel free to follow me on any of those if you want to. And then my other page for my day-to-day business is diamonddiscaudio.com. So that's where that is, and you can find links to that in the Substack post that I do. So, or you can just type in DougDiamond.com, and you'll go right to this site we're looking at. So that's what that's all about. So yeah, let's close up with these last couple little videos here. They're pretty short, and then we can just wrap it up for the night. We're a little bit earlier than normal. I guess that's good. So I hope you guys have a great week. I hope it's a blessed week, and we will see what happens as things continue to unfold and unravel. We are living in the end times, my friends. Hope you guys have made your connection to God if you have become disconnected from Him, because we just don't know what to expect from week to week at this point. Things are moving very swiftly, as again, I believe we're in the end times. So I think we're coming up close on what you could call the Great Tribulation. I think we are probably only about a year and a few months away from that. So yeah, we'll talk about that some more later. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, go back to the YouTube channel and check out some of the videos I made on this subject. It's called End Times Dates. So anyway, lots of stuff there on the video channel if you guys want to pull that up and look at it. But thanks you guys for being here tonight. I certainly appreciate it. And let's close with a couple of short videos. Hope you guys have a blessed week. Love you guys. I'll talk to you again very soon.